Hello everyone and welcome to TCT Talks. My name is Rachel Greenwood. I'm Head of Digital Supply Chain here at the Config team, and I'm here today with my colleague Chris.
Hey, I'm Chris, the Supply Chain Planning Lead at TCT. I'm very happy to be here.
So this morning we're going to be talking about supply chain planning, common challenges, pain points in the industry, and how we at TCT might be able to help you. So first of all, Chris, what's the importance of supply chain planning?
I think within an organisation, traditionally, there's always been three key objectives: to balance costs across the supply chain, or to kind of balance their ways of working. I think first and foremost, it's important for organisations to reduce costs. That's the cost of production, the cost of purchasing items. I think also there's focus on the customer, so around making sure that we're maintaining the right level of quality, but also the service levels for the customer. But I think it's fair to say recently there's been some additional points that organisations need to consider when planning their supply chain, specifically around managing the reduction of net zero carbon emissions, all that sort of thing. So not the reduction of net zero, but the reduction of carbon emissions towards net zero. I think that's become a key topic now for organisations to focus on within their supply chain, but also resilience. So the next key event, the next pandemic, the next war that could be affecting organisations and their ability to supply and also source items as well. So I think those things together have meant that there's a real need to focus on creating a digital twin of your supply chain within an organisation. But I think also making sure that's there to make sure you're competitive and reducing risk within your organisation as well, and to be as efficient as you can be.
Great, thanks, Chris. And so what solutions are available from SAP in the area of supply chain planning?
So the best of breed solution, I'd say, is integrated business planning, IBP, as it's well known within the organisation. That was the replacement for the legacy tool, which was APO. I think if you're looking at the full end-to-end of supply chain planning, though, I think it's really important to consider the short-term scheduling that happens within S4HANA. So that's also sometimes known as manufacturing for planning and scheduling, which is the whole piece around taking orders from your rough capacity plan and being able to sequence them. It's also known as EPPDS in some areas as well, but also considering MRP, the purchasing of components and so on as well within S4HANA. But I think it's actually fair to say some organisations that we deal with now still very, very, very much rely on manual methods of planning in Excel and so on as well. So there's always room for improvement within processes.
Okay, and for those businesses that are still planning manually, is there a benefit for them moving to a systemised solution? Yeah,
I'd say 100%. I guess first and foremost, I think it's a real time saver. So these type of organisations that are planning manually, their processes are very manual. They're almost planning every single SKU by SKU, right, spending lots of time doing that. So it's about saving time in the right areas, making those processes more efficient. And they could also take advantage of automation, so that being forecasting or supply planning, and that can be as basic or as complex as it needs to be for the organisation, really. And then really it's about having that user interface, user experience to make sure that they're kind of managing things in the most efficient way. And then that allows them then to plan by and manage materials by plan their real exceptions, and the materials that don't need focus, they can kind of leave to plan themselves almost within the system. But I think it's fair to say there's a lot of organisations that are probably underutilising their planning solution today, and they're not fully aware of what they've got. So I think there's always room for improvement and to making sure that organisations get the best from their investment, really.
And can you tell us a bit more about that? In what ways are they underusing their solution, would you say?
I think there's a couple of ways, really. So there's a lot of organisations that I've experienced where, for example, they have an advanced planning solution or they have a planning solution, but they have licenses for example, functionality that they're not using. I think it's also fair to say that a lot of their processes could be quite inefficient, and as I mentioned previously, could be spending lots of time carrying out activities that aren't really necessary, I guess. There's more efficient ways of managing those processes. I guess also quite often what we experience is a lack of training. So the organisation has a system, maybe the users or the people that are actually carrying out the planning activities aren't really fully aware of what they should be doing day to day. They're lacking that little bit of adoption. I think you'd say they probably haven't adopted the actual system as much as probably they could do. And I think that's one thing that previously in the past where I've worked, and also something that TCT offer now is a health check. So what that does is it allows us to go in for a very small investment, whether that's 5 days, 10 days of time, to actually look at people within the organisation, within these particular processes, and also systems and data to really look forward and actually make some recommendations of how those processes could be made more efficient.
Okay, and to be able to embark on one of these health checks, would you already need to be using a system-based planning, or could companies that are still using manual planning benefit from that?
I think there's a real mix, yeah. So it doesn't matter where your starting point is, whether it's very much a manual process or you have those most advanced items of software, and also the level of maturity scale within organisations is very different. But I think there's always something to be gained from actually performing one of these health checks. I think the end result in the form of a list of recommendations could be a little bit different depending where they are on that maturity journey. But I think it's fair to say that really it's organisations will get the best out of it for understanding what's the best return on their investment. I think it's fair to say, and the steps that can be taken to go forward in the future.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks, Chris. So just changing theme a little bit, you and I are both recently back from Sapphire, and there was a lot of talk there, wasn't there, about what's coming next in terms of technology, innovation, especially around the likes of AI and so on. Is that something that we're involved in, something we can help our customers move forward with? Yeah,
I think so. I think, well, the big buzzword that SAP keep using at the moment is Joule, and that's something not only in public cloud, but also in SAP IBP that's apparent. I think Joule is available now for customers within IBP, but I think it's fair to say the real usage and the real benefit will be realised I think it's meant to be the next release in August, when there's a real drive around task automation, the ability for users to, for example, ask for a scenario to be created, and then with very little effort and time spent, that can be created pretty much on the fly. I think the real benefit is going to be realised even further out, hopefully not too far in the future, where there'll be the ability for the system to almost look at external factors and to say, okay, well, I know how those external factors, for example, an issue for supply from China will affect your organisation, your supply chain, and it will automatically create those scenarios. That's the vision from SAP, and I think that's something that's really going to be really powerful and a game changer going forward for organisations. I think in the short term as well, there's also some improvements around the transparency of results. So it's quite common for planners to be presented with an automatic plan, but not really understand what it means to them and how they could influence it and the reason why they've got the result they have. So I think it's kind of, there'll be some real improvements in that area to be able to provide a bit of an explanation in plain English or plain language, let's say, to understand exactly what that means to the planner themselves. But I think wherever the client is, it's important for us to understand their level of maturity, their real needs, to take that away and actually understand whether AI is something they're ready for, and then take them on that journey really to maturity, and AI effectively helping to reduce their time spent and make their tasks more efficient.
Great, thanks, Chris. We've covered a lot there. Challenges and manual planning, the opportunity for health checks, right through to automation and AI, and getting the most out of your existing tools. If you had to leave our listeners today with one key takeaway, what would that be?
I think that's, regardless of where you are on the journey as a client, I think, or as an organisation, I think it's fair to say that there's always room for improvement to make sure that you're maximising your investment in the tool, or any tool, or your processes. And I think, without it being sounding too much like a pitch, I think the health check is something that's really could add benefit for very little effort on the part of the organisation. They just need to make themselves available for us to come in and have a conversation with them, and we can really then give them some tangible takeaways and some key areas to improve within their supply chain planning process.
Great, thank you, Chris. I hope you've enjoyed listening to that today. It's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of everything we do here in supply chain planning. Please remember to subscribe and share with your colleagues and team members, and if we can help at all, please reach out.